As human beings, it is our duty to lead ethical lives, to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, and to help our fellow human beings live as comfortably as is possible. Throughout the 10 millennia of human civilization, thousands of different and diverse methods have been developed to help guide people towards these ideals. Most of them are what we now call religions. Religions were, and are, essentially philosophies geared towards helping humanity become its best self. However, these philosophies were, despite having some good ideas, fraught with errors. They were tribalistic, xenophobic, murderous, genocidal, violent, misogynistic, stagnant, oppressive, opposed to change, and, above all, intertwined with supernatural and superstitious beliefs that have no apparent basis in reality. Now imagine that there was a philosophy that aimed to better humanity that didn't have any of these negative aspects. A philosophy that was universal and inclusive instead of tribalistic and xenophobic. Gentle and tolerant instead of conducive to violence and oppression. Genderless as opposed to misogynistic. Adaptive instead of stagnant and opposed to change, and based on scientific evidence, rational thought, and reason rather than religious faith, dogmatism, and irrational superstition and supernaturalism. I believe that this philosophy exists, and has existed for a long time, and it is called Secular Humanism. The foundations for secular humanism have been around since at least ancient Greece. They flowed into and through ancient Rome. They all but disappeared from Western thought during the aptly named European Dark Ages, until they were revived by the thinkers of the Italian Renaissance during the 13th and 14th centuries, where they took root and flowered until they finally bloomed during the accurately named Age of Enlightenment of the 17th and 18th centuries. They continued to grow into the 19th century until they exploded in the early 20th century. Written in 1933 by Raymond Bragg and published along with 34 others, the first Humanist Manifesto declared, in the language of its time, that humanism is the religion of the future. The Humanist Manifesto went through one iteration in 1973 until in 2003 the manifesto was published in its most recent form. The opening sentence to the Humanist Manifesto 3 is, quote, "Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that, without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity." It goes on to list 6 affirmations of humanism that are by no means exhaustive or authoritative. They are rough guidelines for the beliefs that are most in line with humanist thought and are what the majority of humanists believe to be the best course of action for ensuring the best possible outcome for humanity. The first of these affirmations is, knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experimentation, and rational analysis. This cuts to the heart of humanist epistemology, or the study of knowledge, or how we know that we know what we know. This affirmation is contrary to religious faith, which is belief based on no evidence whatsoever. It is an affirmation that humanists will rely on evidence in determining what they believe in every aspect of their lives. The second affirmation is, humans are an integral part of nature, the result of unguided evolutionary change. Based on the epistemological basis of the first affirmation, the second affirmation is a logical conclusion based on the evidence supporting evolutionary theory. It is an affirmation that we are just as much a part of nature as any other living thing and that we should act accordingly. The third affirmation is, ethical values are derived from human need and interest as tested by experience. Continuing with its foundation on empirical epistemology, this affirmation shifts its focus to ethics. It affirms that humanists not only use evidence to determine facts about reality, but also about our ethical values and ideals. The fourth affirmation is that life's fulfillment emerges from individual participation in the service of humane ideals. It takes the third affirmation, and much to the chagrin of religious believers, affirms that the meaning of life is not to serve a god, but to serve humanity. The fifth affirmation is that humans are social by nature and find meaning in relationships. Relying on all of the previous affirmations, this affirmation is one that, again, affirms that human beings are a social species that derives meaning not from religion, but from interpersonal relationships and social interactions. The sixth and final affirmation is that working to benefit society maximizes individual happiness. Again, relying on all previous affirmations, this affirmation affirms that individual and collective human happiness is the highest of human priorities and should be considered the most important of ideals. So with all of that said, I believe that it is apparent that secular humanism is far and away the most important and impactful philosophical idea ever conceived. It, sort of like science, takes hypotheses about what is best for humanity, tests them out, and keeps what is good and discards what is not. It, like is said in the first sentence of the Humanist Manifesto 3, is a progressive philosophy of life, and I believe that it is one that will soon replace religion. With religion on the decline in all first world nations and the religious nones being the largest religious demographic in the United States for the first time in history, I believe that secular humanism is poised to become the next step in the evolution of human thought and philosophy, and I believe that this change is long overdue. Religions have had their 10,000 years of societal dominance. It is well past time that something better was able to come out of the shadows and take the reins, and I think that that something is secular humanism.